Are well, we'll be live here in a minute.
Countdown.
Yeah. Let's see. It says it's live. Usually it takes a minute on Facebook to actually, load, so to speak.
To be real.
To be real. To be in the real. There we go. So we got the live icon. Good God. It's taken forever to launch.
Oh, there it goes.
There we go. Oh, okay. Usually it takes a minute on Facebook to
we were live that whole time.
Oh, shoot. Well, it's still loading on this end. So,
Oh, can you hear it on?
yeah, I can hear you on there. If you want to just mute the Facebook page.
Mute that.
Mute that shit. Oh my gosh, it is really slow going on my end. Hasn't even popped up.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh well, maybe I need to update my software.
We're live on my phone, so I'll just entertain the masses.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I tried to figure it out on my end.
No. So I'm ready to go live. I'll just dance for the people.
Yeah. Go, Stephen! Go, Stephen! Go, Stephen! Yeah!
Yeah, are we live yet?
Yeah, it's slowly, low. Anyway.
Dang.
All right.
Like
Well, obviously we're live. This is Talking Palettes. I'm your host, Daniel Crosier, and I'm here with the astounding and remarkable Stephen Santa Cruz, filmmaker and artist extraordinaire. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the words.
I've got lots of words. Oh, that's gross.
You're
that
also astounding and amazing.
Well, you're just sweet and tolerant.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Stephen, you and I go back a few years. We've been working on a couple of different projects together. Namely, first off, Isolation Man back in the day. Ooh, what a gem!
Watch it on Amazon.
Yeah,
got the camera work in there.
It's on Amazon. But Stephen, you come from a really creative and talented family. All your siblings are doing some really cool and interesting stuff. Your brothers and your sister Ina. I think your mom is also pretty gifted too, if I remember right.
Yeah. She kind of sparked the whole thing when we were kids, and just like nurtured and encouraged all our creative interests. Like pretty much over anything else. So
nice. When did you know? Like early on, you wanted to become a filmmaker. When and how did you find out or figure that out?
I think just from an early age, I like to write things and come up with different stories and characters and things like that. And again, my mom, she just had, every Friday night we would watch a movie, and she kind of introduced us to a lot of those early fun ones, like Star Wars and E.T. and this kind of thing. So just stuff that were coming up as a kid. She took like a vested interest in what we were interested in. So that was she was always just there to be like, if I was just like, oh man, I want to make a movie one day, she'd be like, all right, well, you can, you will.
Yeah.
and it wasn't actually until The Matrix that it was like 100% solidified in my mind to work on film. At that point, I was just like, I just realized you can do anything. I realize now that there was a ton of money behind it, but
right.
If you could dream it, it could show up on screen. And so that was really what got me going to college for film.
Oh, that's cool. So, wow. So The Matrix, huh?
Yeah. After I was just blown away by that film. And from there, it's just like, I don't know. I suppose I had limitations before that. Still have limitations now, but it just went to show that like a good idea is a good idea. And, with the right with the right, again, money, but also with the right team of people and the right idea, you
Right.
could do some amazing things with the medium. And, prior to that, it was like Star Wars and all these other things that were so great, but,
Yeah.
that was just kind of like a benchmark.
Okay. And you went to school for that. What was that experience like?
Yeah, film school was good. I was the straight C student for sure. I, I failed out my first quarter from the Savannah College of Art and Design, just because, I don't know, I guess at
Mhm.
that point I felt like I was already there and things would just come easily. But then it was kind of like, oh no, this is in high school. You really got to do some work.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when I went back, I appealed to get back into this in the second quarter, and then from there I just did kind of on average grade wise, but it was a good school for what I was able to pick up. All our intro classes, video and lighting and cinematography and
Hmm.
stuff like that were really great, and I was lucky enough to have some great writing professors in school, as well as a couple good directing professors that really kind of like set the tone for um for what I like.
Okay. Nice. Um, yeah. And shortly after that, like you did a couple short films. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, I mean, besides projects that we did in school,
Uh-huh.
outside of school, I moved to Chicago like right after school, and so a good friend of mine, Joel Stengel,
Yeah.
who I went to high school with, amazing filmmaker, great filmmaker. He has a documentary online now at Vimeo is the place I saw it, called Tranquilandia,
Hmm.
about his time in the Colombian jungle,
Wow.
working with local farmers there and kind of getting an idea, and also capturing and portraying the plight of their circumstances with the Colombian government, and being caught between, you know, for a long time, like destabilized governmental bodies and things like that.
Hmm.
So he has kind of a spiritual successor to that film coming out soon, a feature length documentary about
Oh.
um, about his exploits in Colombia. I don't want to say too much about it, but I'll be sure to post stuff on my page when more of that comes available. But he and I, since high school, had wanted to make films, and when I was in Chicago shortly after school, we started working on Colfax and 15th, just from really an idea phase.
Nice. So you were able to reconnect with him after film school, or during film school, or just he lived in Chicago.
I lived in Chicago at the time. He was
Okay.
still in Denver, and at
Oh.
this point, he had made couple features. He made one, I think he made a homegrown feature called Herman
Okay.
out here, and then he went on to make. It's an Italian title that I forget now. He did.
It's the boxing film, right?
Prior to the boxing film, he made like a little love story with his nephew, a really great film. I forget the title. I apologize, Joel, but it was a great film that he shot in Sicily, where his grandparents actually lived, and so he's an amazing dude too.
Nice.
He can speak fluent Italian and German and English. Super creative guy, super driven guy. So I learned a lot from him going into like more hands-on production style stuff outside of school. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like an easy transition, and I came back to film that movie, and then not too long after that, I think I moved back to Denver, maybe a couple years after we made that movie.
Yeah. And yeah, after you did that, like um, you guys were working on Colfax and 15th, right?
Well, yeah, it was kind of a long running project
Okay.
from that point. It started as an idea, an experience that he had on the bus talking to this dude who was um, a bonds retrieval agent, which is essentially like a bounty
Hmm.
hunter by today's standards. And he was talking to this dude on the bus and got this guy's really his whole story laid out for him, about how this guy was like an expectant father and he was trying to make ends meet. and he had a baby carriage on the bus with him full of his own clothing. So he was like,
oh, okay,
in a totally unstable situation, but really captured the imagination of Joel. And then Joel told me while I was in Chicago over like a Christmas break of like 2008 or something like that. And then from there, it was like kind of a slow process of conceptualizing and writing, and it was kind of a slow ramp up until I want to say the winter of 2009, and then I flew out here, and then we really started getting to work on it. We wrote it and produced it within a month, and in the next month of November, I believe, or in December of that year, we just like run and gun shooting. We got whatever money we could and just like scraped it together, and it turned out good. For those of you who have seen it and who've known me for a long time, it's actually offline currently. Because I wanted to do like a little 10th anniversary re-release of it, which we can talk about in a minute. So currently it's not online, but for those of you who have seen it, I mean, hopefully that's like enlightening to the history of the film that we've made.
It's pretty remarkable because that's how I met you. Is you I think we were meeting up as a film group, like under Mother Mind Studios or something like that. And
it was Crazy Horse days.
Yeah, and we were working on Isolation Man, and you one day mentioned to me that it's like, oh yeah, I did this feature film. I'm like, what the fuck? That's an astounding feat, because that is such a massive undertaking. A bunch of at the time, I thought of you as like this art kid, and you had the film background, but I didn't understand to what extent. So when you brought in a copy of that, and we sat down and we watched it, it's just like, oh my god, this.
Thanks,
It's a wonderful dramatic piece. It's a massive accomplishment, and I would advocate that anybody watching this definitely needs to know of it and go out and find it and see it. And
I'll make it more readily available to people within the coming months for sure. I didn't, after having the film in hand and everything and all that took to make it, I still didn't know to the extent of a filmmaker I was, and it took a lot of people to bring it all together, and it was definitely one of the hardest things I've done or been a part of. Just kind of gotta, some days I wanted to quit, and then luckily
right.
Joel, it was Joel's conception. We both wrote it together, and he was gracious enough to want me to come in and direct it so he could work on his cinematography. Much to the film's credit, it looks gorgeous. For what it is in terms of the no budget that we produced it on and using non-actors and stuff, I think it's a really special film and a time capsule in a lot of ways. And so part of the reason of taking it down quite recently, it was on YouTube for a long time, just the feature length, and we got some good views from people, which is cool. And I hadn't watched it in a long time. So, recently I was in LA for 7 months, testing the waters there. And I showed it to a friend. We sat down and watched it, and I was just like, this movie is just really good. It turned out really well.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm able to just add a little bit more music to certain parts, which is the intention behind the 10th anniversary cut, if you will, then it would really drive home some of the emotional beats in there that I think are still there, but also might help the long-windedness of certain parts kind of flow a little bit better. So that's the intention with re-releasing it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's also needs to be remarked on the fact that it helped launch careers for some of your actors. So
definitely.
Ariana Sanchez, I think she's out in California and doing projects, and Jazz. Unfortunately, the full name escapes me.
Keetrick Copeland.
No,
Jazz Keytrick Jazzed Copeland.
Yeah, he's
a good
constantly
dude.
just in project after project after project.
Yeah, that guy don't ever sleep.
Yeah, and I
Same thing with
think
Ariana, I think it's something that she always wanted to do, but like probably didn't have the opportunity. And up until we decided, she would be good for the part of Alicia in the
mhm,
film, probably didn't think she had maybe an opportunity, or maybe it was just a fantasy in the back of her mind. But now
yeah,
she's out in LA. She's been there for close to 10 years since we made the film, and
nice.
she's booking jobs, and she's been in a lot of online content, and she's making it happen. She was actually pretty bummed that I moved back to Denver from LA.
Oh,
But, all these places are fairly close together. And time will tell on what
yeah.
happens.
It's just a short plane ride.
Yeah, definitely. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. I was bouncing around out there for a little bit. I had a friend offered me a job, and I thought, well, hey, this is probably my opportunity to get in on the production side of
Hmm.
things. And honestly, we were almost there. We, as in me, I was almost there, and with a good handful of friends and a few leads on some good jobs. But then the COVID hit, and I feel like I could have stayed out there, but getting work, that's my dog. Rabbit, come here. I figured getting work was going to be really tough, and at the time it was uncertain how the stimulus and
Right.
unemployment was going to work out. Luckily, I've got both those things coming my way, which is cool.
Good.
So it kind of derailed things, and my family and I thought it best that I come home and spend some time. I'm here staying with my sister now, and honestly, for the time being, I really am enjoying being back in Denver. And I think amidst the hurdles of the pandemic, like this interview series, there's so much
Yeah.
to be done, and we all kind of have the time to build now in creative ways. So that's kind of like, I'm grateful for it all, and like I said, LA ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, after all this, you can always go back out there if there's a gig or project or something.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Um,
what my sister's been doing for years. Has kind of been she pioneering, paving the way to go back and forth, and yeah, I think these next couple of years, again amidst the barriers, that we're going to do some really cool shit
that's cool.
collectively, all of us.
Yeah. Do you ever work with your sister on anything?
We've worked on a couple things. I've filmed some like audition tapes for her and stuff. We've yet to work on like a creative narrative or anything together in any way, but thus far what we have been able to do has been pretty fun. It's always nice having her on camera. Honestly, she
Hmm.
looks amazing. Ina Barone, if you want to look up on Facebook or whatever, she's a very talented actress. She just not just about a year ago, they're still figuring out what to do in terms of distribution and sale of a film
Hmm.
she was on. But she's a Latina girl from West Denver who went on to star in as the lead in a Russian feature-length film in
Ah,
fluent Russian. Like, if that gives you any indication of her
that's
willpower, So
that's
um,
fantastic. If the opportunity presents itself, we should do a double feature night with Colfax and 15th and her Russian
yeah,
film.
that would be amazing. Yeah, that'd be super great.
I have a feeling it'd be a lot of tequila and a lot of vodka that night.
Yeah, probably just for me. I don't think either of you guys drink.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Well, we can watch you just get toasted.
But yeah, so her film is the working title is Ilyana, and that's the character she plays. But I think
Okay.
they're just about to set to rename the film, and it's still been in kind of a limbo in terms of how they want to distribute it and all this stuff. I think they're still trying to sell it on like a a grander scale than just going straight VOD just yet or something. So,
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, I mean, I'm crazy impressed by that. Like
Hmm.
just the origins to what she's doing and what she's capable of doing, and right now again with the pandemic, it's sidelined, our expectations, I guess you could say, in our trajectories of where we're headed. But at the same time, the creative energy is like, not subsisting in any way. So that's good.
Nice. For everybody that's watching out there, this is live. Feel free to comment and ask questions and we'll try to answer them as we as they pop up. Yeah. So Stefan, a few years ago we were able to reconnect and with Gerard Kaihue and Cutis Adjamine and Amanda Armstrong. We were shooting stuff over at the Oriental Theater at the Lucha Libre and Laughs.
Yeah, some of the best times of my whole life.
Yeah, and we shot a couple other small projects and stuff that are mostly online and everything. But do you find that a lot of your strength is behind the camera or directing or writing, or is it do you feel comfortable at just doing all of those?
I think out of necessity, I've gotten to a certain level of comfort doing all of those, just because, I'm kind of against the grain in a lot of ways, and I'm not going to like sit and write up a proposal in order to get funding. Not that it's not something I don't want to do, but it's pure laziness, like, I'm not going to sit there. If I have an idea, just like try and find a way to move on it or whatever. So out of that kind of practice, maybe even a bad habit, I've been able to get pretty comfortable, and I've had a good friend of mine, Jerry Lopez, who I grew up with. He and I have always kind of like seen eye to eye in terms of like our movies that we like and TV shows and stuff. So over the years, we've produced a bunch of little shorts and music videos and stuff, which are scattered all over the internet. But I've always found ways to like, one, keep up practice and also staving off boredom. I mean, you'll never find me bored. I'm always just trying to make something or play video games, but you always got that I call going. Cultivating inspiration.
Oh, there you go. Cultivating inspiration. That's nice. And people at home being quarantined and self-isolating and everything. That's probably a good, catch slogan or, motto to live by.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you hear of everybody, trying, climbing up the walls and stuff with, just wanting to be done with this, but of course, we have to do this to help protect the least among us, that are more susceptible to this type of disease, especially an asthmatic like this fucker.
Yeah, no, that's tough, man. I know I've still been smoking weed, fairly regularly, and my sister's not happy about it. It's not something necessarily anybody should be doing. I wouldn't condone it, but definitely if I begin to feel anything out of the ordinary, I'll set it aside.
Yeah. Still, it's a great pastime.
I can't imagine, for asthmatics or anybody, like my mother's as healthy as forgive the expression, mom, a mule. So I don't imagine anything would happen to her, but just at her age group and stuff like that, that's where the pandemic or the virus itself really starts to hit a little close to home. And so, honestly, the best medicine besides, staying healthy, eating healthy and everything, keeping your mental faculties in order, I'd say is being creative, that thing that you've always wanted to do it. And right now I almost feel like I'm running out of time until everything's opened up again, or, so to speak, it feels like there's not enough time for all the things that I hope I could do in this life.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Elise and I are wrapping up a comic book together, and
can't wait.
I want to do more of these interviews with people like yourself, and and then we got the whole HorrorCon stuff. So we'll see how that all pans out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm hoping it's a surprise, in terms of the way that we round the corner. I think I'm hoping this is a time that you're just going to see a lot of like, hopefully like small businesses and stuff pop up. And it's
Right.
really a time for people to be like, like it's one thing to be waiting on our unemployment and our stimulus and everything, but it's a good opportunity to see that we don't have to depend fully on these services in order to validate and facilitate our own needs. It's like our grandparents went to World War II and we're just being asked to sit on the couch. It's like,
Right.
what better way to get the most out of that than to put some time into your hobbies and this kind of thing. So that's where I'm hoping to be on the other end of this anyway.
Yeah, it occurs to me that this is an opportunity to kind of, one, reinvent yourself, and then, two, potentially, have a whole different outlook and new step forward, whether that means, financially, economically, with a new business or, a new initiative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's making use of the time has been not an issue so much, but it's definitely a majorly different thing than we're used to dealing with. So I hope that if anything, like saying be creative and work on your thing is just a means to shake people out of maybe a funk that they might be in because of the lockdown. Like I'm an introvert extrovert. So staying inside is not too bad,
Right.
But there have been days when I'm just like stir crazy enough that I just want to run up and down the street screaming, It's just like, you don't think it'd affect you that way. So I feel for my real extroverted peoples right now, man.
Right. Yeah. The ones with the need to socialize.
Yeah. I got it a little bit. I only do it to sell things.
Right. Well, at least you're honest.
Just enough. No, just kidding. I love you all. Please buy my book.
Yeah, but buy this.
Yeah.
With that, what are you working on currently?
So currently, it's one of those things right now. My equipment needs a pretty solid upgrade. Mm-hmm. So I'm realizing some limitations. I'm learning After Effects right now for various reasons, but my computer is about 4.5 years old and it was a budget buy to begin with. So it's struggling with After Effects a little bit. So in realizing my limitations, I'm continuing to work on podcasting with my friends from the Superhouse podcast, which we've been doing for now a few different years. We cover a lot of superhero material and superhero and comic book films.
Yeah.
And we've always kind of been a little bit all over the place topically. Up until recently, we've been focusing mainly on dissecting and unearthing everything you could possibly want to know about Batman and Batman on film.
Oh, that's right. I've been seeing those posts.
Yeah, they've been pretty good, and just now that I'm personally not tearing myself away in many different directions and focusing there, we're really making building some momentum. Our listenership is going up every week, and our production value is getting better, and it's an infotainment based podcast, so we're hopefully bringing to light a lot of information that people don't really know about their favorite comic book heroes. We'll be moving on to Superman eventually, and we're actually beginning a new series that explores other comic book and superheroes on a broader in a kind of a broader way. So we're also doing the heavy deep dives on Batman or Superman, but I got a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle episode coming out pretty soon,
nice.
Which will lead to probably more of those, and that's going to be called Superhero Stuff You Should Know for the time being, till we think of a better name, but kind of harping off of Stuff You Should Know, but podcasting's the Wild West.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah, and among that, I'm hoping to, I'm going to double down on podcasting and start getting some more shows going under my own production umbrella, so I can, I'm hoping to form a business platform off of podcasting. And, for me, that word or for a lot of people that seems like loaded. I don't really care for the shirt and tie business persona as much as I want to make a living off of, producing entertainment, creating entertainment, and like the dream, like my own expressions and my own ideas, essentially.
Yeah, most definitely. On top of that, you still have, like couple short films that are in like various stages, correct?
I got a lot of scripts.
Okay.
I got a lot of outlines for sure. I'm always trying to write down every idea I can. So spend a lot of time writing. The last short film I created was with my friend Jerry Lee on my YouTube page, which just search for Stephen Santa Cruz on YouTube. I'm not sure. I don't have like enough subscribers to have my own URL yet.
Right.
But we have a short film on there called Watching. And, it's very much a no budget kind of thing. But I think in the end, the payoff was really nice. And I got to flex a little bit on some of my production know-how near the end of that project. And it turned out pretty good. And since then, I've produced a lot of content for the podcast on our YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
As well as dipping my toes in various other things like music production and writing for comic books on top of films. So I got tons of ideas. It's nice. Catching up with oneself, which I'm grateful again for this time, because I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. So with this time, you're able to, kind of refocus and focus on, one primary, thing. But do you find you also need to, juggle a number of balls in the air simultaneously?
Yeah, I feel like I wouldn't be me if I wasn't doing 13 things at once.
Sure. I know
it's
that
just
feeling.
how on a good day, I have every program that I use open, Sketchpad out. My guitar is sitting next to me. It's just like trying to capture the lightning in a bottle of like my ADD expressive nature, creative nature, whatever. But nowadays it seems like, especially in going to like build a business platform, I think the strategy would best be approached if I focus a little bit on one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So, which is really tough. Even already right now, I got podcasts and Colfax going. So yeah, I mean, I always just feel like by the end of my life or whatever, if there isn't just this cohesive body of work in the Kubrick sense, or like Spielberg sense, or even the EU Bowl sense, at least.
Yeah.
At least I'll have a bunch of disparate things I've left in my wake, and the settler in me is okay with that.
That's pretty cool. I remember back in the day you were trying to put together a comic book. I think it was called Feo.
Feo, yeah. I have one issue of that drawn up, and then like after that first issue, I had all these grand ideas for what it could be. But then after that first issue, I drew a blank. I didn't really make a plan for any successive issues, and just had this kind of character that was a mix of, I don't know, the Joker and Wolverine. You know how they call it the Joker in the Dark Knight is like a force of nature or something. And so I was like, I want to do a character like that who's just like, on one hand is just like unstoppable and unbeatable, but there's some character crux of the character that keeps it interesting, which I have a few ideas, but essentially I wanted to approach that title like a Hellboy that explored the folklore of the Southwest and of Mexico. And so kind of mixing ideas of magic and demons and the really heavy Catholic influence over, Mexico, and, just exploring a bunch of different ideas about like the Old West, which would lean into the supernatural.
Yeah.
Which is something I'd still like to do, but it's just a matter of writing the scripts out. And Feo is just such a cool name. For those who don't know, it means ugly in Spanish.
Nice. Well,
ugly.
I did a cover for, I think, for that project, and then it ended up being cover art for an issue of Birdie, local art magazine.
Nice. I haven't seen that. I must have been in transit somewhere, but that is awesome. Yeah, your cover is amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so they ended up catching it, and they sponsored Dink when I was putting Dink together, and and so that was pretty fun. So that's yeah, I think I would love to see them, start publishing comic books and stuff, as well as the print magazines and featuring all the artists. So definitely get on it and pitch to them, because they're cool kids.
Yeah, for sure. I've fantasized many times about just like taking the reins and drawing the whole thing myself, which I think I could do with some good practice. I think I'm a pretty good draftsman in my own right. I've always wanted to do sequentials. Before I switched my major to film, I was doing sequential art at SCAD, and got some good introductory classes to how that process goes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it would be really nice if I could just write those and have a few different artists draw it or something. So definitely a plan for the future. If I've ever had an idea, it has not gone anywhere.
Yeah, it almost suggests to me that it could be. Sorry, I'm adjusting.
Yeah.
That it could be like an anthology series. All these little vignette short stories. They might have some interlocking threads, but they could all take place at different times. Yeah, you mentioned Hellboy, and the way his stories come out. It seems to be at different stages of Hellboy's life.
That would be really cool. Yeah, and I think that one of the hurdles of that idea anyway was like how to string together like a large and longer narrative. I always want to go want that big payoff through the subtext, through a big story, Akira style.
Oh yeah.
I love Akira. It's probably my favorite comic book ever, not to mention anime.
Nice.
But yeah, an anthology series of that kind I think could be really cool. Getting to build the world and everything. So yeah, like I said, I've had my toes dipped in a lot of different pools. Sorry for that image, y'all.
I'm sure they're cleaner than mine. Mine you need to take a sand or two.
But yeah, I'd love to talk more with you about those type of projects as well, or any projects. Like it's always been great working with you.
Sure, it's always a pleasure working with you. With especially now, since you're quarantined just as are the rest of us. What's the kind of films and TV shows that you've been consuming that you're really into?
There's so much out there, which is good. There's no shortage of recommendations either. I run a Facebook group called the Overly Critical Hyperanalytical Movie Club as well, for anybody who wants to join, and we post shit about movies and talk shit, and it's great.
I'm a part of that.
But I've been, on one hand, I've been leaning into like 80s action films. I watched Bloodsport the other day. Classic, and it reinvigorated my love of Jean-Claude Van Damme as well. When I was a kid, I loved Van Damme. I mean, I don't know that most people didn't. But I think, in later years, he kind of fell out of favor maybe, or just wasn't as popular. But after watching Bloodsport, I was like, man, this guy. And right now he's doing those like training classes on his channels or whatever, his social media.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just like, oh, man, Van Damme is great. He's just great. And then thinking back to Sudden Impact or Double Impact, my bad. Mm-hmm. And
I remember
the early ones, Universal Soldier. Oh, man.
Yeah. That reminds me, I did just watch, actually I own it now too, and I'll admit it. It's going to have to be a guilty pleasure, but I did purchase Bloodshot. That was the last film I saw in the theaters, and then the first film I saw on video on demand during this. And I was like, holy crap, This is like Universal Soldier.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I could see that for sure. I'm personally not a huge Vin Diesel fan.
Nor am I. Like,
Yeah,
it's
and
Pitch
so I
Black and
was,
then that film, and that's pretty
yeah.
much it.
And the Green Ranger actually plays Bloodshot on the lower budget web
Right.
series that they created for Valiant Comics, which,
Like the
one is
Ninjak
obviously
series
probably
or
the
something
better
like that.
actor. Yeah. But I'd choose Green Ranger Bloodshot over Vin Diesel anything. No, and that's just nowadays because I love Pitch
Yeah.
Black, and he rocked in Pitch Black and the Riddick movies and stuff. I don't know. I always say things like that, but then feel bad later, like I'm being actor prejudiced or something.
Oh,
Kudos to Vin and all his fans. What do
that
I know?
I think that's okay. He gets paid well enough to, armor
Right.
himself against your terrible words.
One time I saw this really cringy interview with him being interviewed by this like Italian female interviewer, and
Yeah.
he's just like total sleazeball.
Oh,
Like, look at how beautiful she is, guys! Ain't she beautiful? I'm in love, and she's trying to ask him questions, and he's just being a total douche. But
just kind of a sexist
kill your
pig.
idols if he happens to be one of them, and just
Yeah.
enjoy your Bloodshots. But I hear Bloodshot's actually pretty good. You gave it a pretty good.
I enjoyed it. It's got its low marks. It's an idea that I think just needed to be developed a little bit better.
Mhm.
But it's fun for what it is. It definitely has echoes of like '90s action films. So Universal Soldier, I think, being the obvious one,
Mhm.
and it certainly tried to give itself that polish that the first Iron Man had, but it
Okay.
can't. That's a high benchmark to make. Kudos for trying, but it just
Yeah.
didn't get there. But then when you learn like the budget on that thing, it was only like $45 million. So it's just
Oh wow.
wow. They did a
Yeah.
lot with that amount of resource. Still,
Yeah.
$45 million, comparatively to what you were able to do with something like Colfax and 15.
Mhm.
It-
It was just the craft food budget.
Yeah,
Probably
I mean,
much less.
yeah, but still, yeah. How much did Colfax make?
Altogether, it cost us about $7,000 to do, I believe,
Wow, fantastic.
which is cool. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but that was exactly the amount that it took Rodriguez to make Once Upon a Time. No, not Once Upon a Time. El Mariachi.
Right,
It was
right.
a $7,000 film, and at the time, I think when we were making Colfax, and Joel and I were gestating on films that we wanted to make.
Mhm.
Robert Rodriguez's Rebel Without a Crew book that he wrote was like a huge influence, and kind of
Nice.
leads to that whole DIY style of doing things, which you're a master at, and I'm like really into. um, so yeah, it's getting around the money thing is physically in the real world it's tough. Conceptually, I'm all over that.
Right.
Or finding ways to make your no budget shine is kind of what I hope to achieve.
Yeah. When you're doing something DIY, and financing is the piece of the pie that you just do not have. How do
Mhm.
you reconcile?
I would say first in the writing phase, like, don't get rid of those big ideas that you want to completely, but find ways to downscale them or allude to them subtly that won't be, some expositional piece of dialogue.
Yeah.
But yeah, or on the flip side of that, just finding smaller ways where you can make your budget look bigger. Like in Colfax, we just put up an ad on Craigslist for a muscle car enthusiast to drive for us, and we have a car in the film that's very much its own character.
Cool.
And those scenes are wicked. It's a lot of our production value, but we paid that guy I forgot his name. Apologies. Good dude. We paid him about $60 a day, so it's just finding ways, and for what money that you do have, making it stretch, like also finding somebody local who can do steady cam op and stuff, that'll go a long way. And usually you won't be paying more than a couple $100 for that. If you're absolutely broke, then get super creative with your homespun movies. And the best thing I think you could do is learn about composition, a little bit of editing techniques, all stuff you can find on YouTube, and just find ways of making the most of your very limited resources. And really what most people want to see is a person's face and some dialogue. So like,
Yeah. Your lead, Joseph Trujillo, I think he really delivers. He's got that, he definitely has a style, that's pretty much all it is. And it comes off kind of suave.
Oh yeah. Joe is he's well aware of of what's going on, and he's able to, he's much more, I think this was his first film, but he proved to be very versatile. Who he is in real life is one type of person. He's very like fun loving, very like giggly, and likes playing jokes and stuff, and super outgoing and just very friendly and smiley. And then in his portrayal of Isaac in the film, he's very cool, very collected, very calculating, and he was able to carry the film in so many ways that I think, again, me wanting to add music is just to add to what he's already bringing to the table and what the other actors brought as well. Yeah, I thought his turn was amazing, and like directing any of them was very easy. The hard parts were getting the shots and making sure your sound is good and making sure you're staying on schedule. But other than that, just like a blast to work with those guys. That's
always one thing too that we still run into it today is making sure you have quality audio.
Yeah, that'll save your whole thing. There's a couple shots in the movie actually that I can't quite fix, but hopefully the music will be a little bit better. Can you give me 1 second? My dog is going nuts.
Uh-oh. So for everybody that's out there watching, feel free to add some questions or comments in the comment section, and we'll get to answering some of those. Right now, we don't seem to have any. Come on, guys. I know there's a few of you that are watching, so feel free to ask.
Never stop talking.
Chances are they're probably Stefan's relatives, and probably already know all the answers anyway.
Yeah, it's a rabbit.
That's it. Oh, is that your dog Rabbit?
Yeah, she's itching for a walk here pretty soon.
Oh no. Yeah. Hey. So I know with the podcast stuff that you've been working on, you've also been doing like toy reviews and things like that, and building little set pieces and dioramas and everything. Yeah. How's that going?
Yeah. Something I definitely want to get into more. I've always collected action figures. Definitely thought it was something I would grow out of, but never did. And, up until last year, I had a pretty decent collection. I've stored away a few figures, a few sentimental items, but I ended up selling quite a few things in order to make my move to LA. Only to move back, but they're only things, and we'll get them. But for a little while, one thing I really am dying to get into is like stop motion filmmaking, and diorama building for non-specifically for action figure photography as well as the stop motion stuff. And there's a huge community online of diorama makers that you can find through YouTube and Facebook. Dio Structure is a good group to join, and Al Figures, if you look for him on YouTube, he gives all these great tutorials on how to do brick walls from insulation foam, pink insulation foam, if you're familiar with it.
Oh yeah.
And you can do a lot with these very simple, very cheap materials, and some of these people make the coolest, most detailed dioramas and set pieces.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, for a while on the Superhouse podcast YouTube page, I had a program called Hot Package, which my brother thinks the title was very provocative, but and I suppose it is, which I guess is a joke.
It's provocative, but it's like, hey, I'm curious, yay,
Yeah, right.
A guy like me, I'll open that up, It's like, oh,
yeah.
sploosh.
I'm just talking about toys.
Oh,
I thought it was funny. I didn't inherently try and do this too much, but I thought just in talking about like small playthings in your hands or whatever was like there's innuendo enough.
Yeah.
So finding subtle ways to make sex sell, even if it's out of context, so to speak. I don't know.
You definitely. Well, yeah. There's your platform. There's your branding. Hot packages. Yeah. I want to see that logo so I can wear that T-shirt.
Well, and so I had that series on YouTube for a while, and I did about 20 episodes of that, and then shortly thereafter, it stalled out for a little while. I was going to do it by like seasons and then come back and do another one. But then there was all that stuff in YouTube about marking your videos, whether or not they're for kids or not for kids, the COPPA law and all that stuff. So in kind of a panic at the time, we were worried of getting like hit with fines because of some of the stuff we were talking about. So all those are unlisted currently. I think at this point or they're private, but I think now we can make them public again for people to watch. Hot Package on YouTube at Superhouse Podcast. I'll make those available because I think other toy collectors and reviewers and stuff have found ways to make that work out.
Nice. It seems like you have to go back and just kind of comb through some of your content and see what you can if you have to edit anything. I don't know. It seems unfortunate, but I guess that's the thing you have to deal with now on YouTube.
It didn't turn out to have as much of an impact as I think a lot of people did. It was just being cautious, minding your P's and Q's about the way that you post it, which is something that a lot of people hadn't had to worry about up until this point.
Right.
It was really YouTube's fault. They kind of threw all their users under the bus.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
FTC came down on them.
Yeah. I see your mom, Sandra, just chimed in. Looks like she missed a big chunk. And can you make the viewing available later? Yes, it'll be permanently on Facebook. So just go back to the same link and start it all over.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps, Sandra.
You didn't miss much, Mom. I was just talking about not bathing and eating junk food and not washing behind my ears.
Yeah, the usual daily stuff, standing one's feet, the stuff that we all have to deal with. Darn corns.
Yeah. But yeah, there's definitely one of the things with this time now is compiling a lot of the material and stuff that I've worked on because, like I said, I'm very much inclined to just like leave things in my wake and then move on to the next thing. But surprised to find that after a few years, along with you and others, built a really nice body of work, of projects worked on locally in Denver here, which is a really great community to be a part of.
Well, I think like Denver has an amazing creative community. Most definitely, I think the art and music scene is just astounding. I mean, and it's also one of those two that has really coalesced. Everybody seems to know each other. I think I still feel, and I've been saying this quite a bit recently, the film community still seems fragmented, which I find baffling. And maybe it's just because I don't get out to do the social thing amongst the film communities. Maybe I'm just my own little outlier to that criticism, but But when I
Yeah.
talk to other people, they're like, yeah, it seems fragmented, which is unfortunate
Yeah.
because I think like I know as a state we don't have a lot of film incentives, so we
Mhm.
don't attract too many outside larger projects. But
Mhm.
at the same time, I don't think we really need to. I don't
I
think
don't either. I think it's like I was saying this like 10 years ago. It's like, oh, better get on these projects now because you're on
right.
the ground floor of this booming, community more than anything. And even now, it's like, even if we had those better tax incentives, it would just be Hollywood productions coming into Denver. And I don't know about the other filmmakers in Denver, or creative people, but when I'm driving around, I see movies on every street corner and every nook and cranny of this city
Mm-hmm.
that are Denver, like very Denver
Yeah.
personality. The personality of this city to me is ripe for the picking in broader, dramatic, comedic, and horror
Right.
genres, which, you get a lot of documentaries out of here. You get a lot of commercial production. But as of yet, we have a very small and, like you're saying, fragmented creative community producing more genre-based type of things, or dramatic narratives that
Mm-hmm.
might put the city on the map. If I'm not wrong, Shyamalan did it for Philadelphia, and
Right.
Richard Linklater and Robert Rodriguez did it for Austin,
Yep.
and there's no reason Denver shouldn't have a more connected community and a more prospering filmmaker community, which is something I sure would like to be a part of,
Yeah.
ongoing.
Yeah, and it's not like we don't have that talent. The talent and the skill
Right.
set and all the
Tons.
resources are there.
Yeah.
We just I think it's just having that project that hits that zeitgeist
Hmm.
that makes it either a national or international phenomenon.
True.
Or maybe it doesn't even need to be that. Just needs to be that community that can really come together, make amazing projects consistently, and then be able to inform the public well enough that it is it can be an industry that can be self-sustaining, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, and not
Yeah.
just the
And
documentaries and the reality TV shows and
hmm
the commercials, because there are those being produced here and they are amazing.
yeah, that's
Um,
true too.
but I think somebody's passion project that just hits, and
Hmm.
my day job over near Access TV where I manage that property. Those projects,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of wonderful projects, and they get
Cool.
picked up
Yeah.
by Netflix, and you see them streaming on Amazon, and they get theatrical releases and stuff like that too.
Hmm.
They're absolutely amazing. But I will say that times like this, not only do you get to work on your projects, but you also get the privilege of and the opportunity to go digging for those unknown gems that you don't know
Hmm.
you want.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Definitely.
It's kind of like I would think like back in the day when and people still do this to a great extent, going to the record store and just combing over all those wonderful albums, and
Right.
you know like when I was young, you didn't get to listen to the album. You went based on what the album
Right.
cover looked like, um, and so you bought it, took it home based on the strength of the album art, and um, hopefully you were pleasantly surprised, or you
Hmm.
found the new thing to worship. At least for that.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Sorry.
Nope, no.
I remember in like buying CDs and everything like that. You knew the single that you liked off of MTV or whatever, but you, in a lot of ways, you cherished the opportunity to be able to discover what was on that album.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I guess things are different in that regard, like what you're saying. But, now things are like a lot more convenient and a lot more information just travels so quickly.
Right.
That, especially music now, you can just get it as long as you have a subscription to Spotify or Apple Music or something. And it's, the anticipation and the purchasing of those albums and things like that I wouldn't say that it's like worse now. It's just things change,
I think change is probably the right word. I think when you're online, there's just more noise and more things, auditioning for your attention. And, it's just how do you, filter out, and how do you just navigate trying to figure out trying to find that diamond among the rough, so to speak. And I think it's still that journey. It's still there. It still exists. It just exists in a digital world. And I think I think with that too, that's a wonderful platform to be able to connect and engage with people and share your art and your visions.
Yeah, definitely. And Denver, like any other city, we've got all kinds of burgeoning talented people, and as technology is catching up with people's ideas and stuff like that, I assume it won't be long before the community that we're a part of will solidify and unify in a way that is very Denver specific or very locally grown, which I'll always be here for that. No matter where I am, it's always kind of like, that's where that hometown pride lies for me, I suppose.
Yeah. Hey, are you reading anything lately? Any novels?
Yeah, right now I'm kind of halfway through a Whitley Strieber novel called Hybrids. For those not familiar, he wrote Communion in the 80s.
Okay.
About his own personal account of an alien abduction. And the book I'm reading now is his kind of niche is that he sells his books as, well, this one is fiction, but he kind of gets across with using like the popular ufologist mythologies to weave through his stories. He wrote a book called The Greys, for instance. And he wrote a book called Majestic about the 12 members who covered up the Roswell crash and everything like that. So he kind of rides the line of being fiction and nonfiction with the way he tells his stories.
Okay.
Hybrids is very much a fictional tale. It's like it's a horror. It's somewhat of a horror action thing. I see Joel Kinnaman in the main role. And nice. He's part human, part hybrid, and then there's all these very advanced hybrids that have been loosed on the country or whatever. It's a really cool book. Whitley Strieber is one of my favorite authors.
Cool.
Aside from that, I'm tearing into Akira again, which I mentioned earlier, just because I haven't read the comic versions of it in a long time, and it's just Katsushiro Otomo is just like. When I get into my comic stuff, I'm just going to rip him off. Just kidding. But it's definitely the roadmap,
Well, at least you're honest.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're going to steal,
look simple.
You're going to steal from the best.
Right. Did Picasso say that, or was that
I don't know. I'm going to say that I said that, but if Picasso said it first, I stole it from him, and he is one of the best.
Yeah. Maybe it was Bob Kane.
Oh, probably. Yeah, Bob Kane. Probably that too. Yeah. I mean, you are doing the thing on Batman. I was going to say, it could also be Bob Ross. He's got the hair for it.
Right. He stole from me.
Yeah. So many happy trees.
No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't born yet.
Oh, well, I think that series is on Netflix, so you can always revisit it.
Right. Yeah.
Especially if you.
Which is cool too. Like it seems now the market is having to lean into the streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Now, like Bob Ross has been out for a while, but we have a bunch of new releases coming out. I guess Trolls 2 made like a few times more than its original taking from the first film, just by being released directly to video or whatever, directly to streaming.
Video on demand, yeah.
Yeah. Which I think the new Scooby animated is coming out in the same way as well. I was talking about this yesterday. It's interesting how the theater experience is going to have to evolve because of this, or really, if at all. I guess AMC is on the verge of bankruptcy, and kind of a weird time for the ritual of movies, you know. Yeah,
it was interesting to see. I think earlier in the week that Universal, with I think they were the ones that had the animated Trolls 2. And it did so well that they're like, well, we're going to do a lot more video on demand, and it's like, yeah, it's understandable. And then AMC is just like, well, we're not going to be working with you. It's like, I wouldn't cut off your nose to spite your face on that.
All the inner turmoil that the industry itself is undergoing because of that. It's like pretty crazy boycotts of Universal films and these kind of things.
It might not make the best business sense, but as far as like a consumer, goes, it's like, why not offer up a number of these different platforms, so when it gets released, maybe the video on demand slightly delayed, I don't know, but offer it up. So it's like, hey, you've got these sick people that have compromised immunities, have them stay home, watch it on video on demand, and then us young, robust, virile types, we go to the theaters and sit 6 feet across from each other and stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll install the personalized decontamination pods for each ticket.
As long as it comes with wings, I'm all for
it. Yeah, definitely. That's another thing too, is like the how are theaters going to survive without concessions, and I guess those brands will just have to absorb the ticket sales from streaming things, and you're going to have to BYOS.
So I
own snacks.
So is that something that they're actually considering? Is no vending, no concessions?
Well, not necessarily to that degree. I was talking to some friends about how that could evolve, and just the fact that most theaters make most of their money off of their concessions. Yeah. But in an age of post-COVID, worst case scenario is we never get to go to the movies again. So certain, probably like companies like Regal and stuff like that will just become streaming services, and the idea of them selling snacks, will be kind of out the window, because, at home you can make yourself some pizza or some chicken nuggets, and it's probably cheaper and better than what they sell at the theaters. So
you can still get carry out and delivery too.
Yeah. And I haven't heard what's going on with Alamo Drafthouse, but they were like the best of both worlds for a while, with like the restaurant in the movie theater.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been keeping up on them. AMC tends to dominate the conversation when I'm looking at it, and
we got enough to do than worry about them.
True. They'll figure something out. Maybe they'll sell off an AMC and Alamo. It'll be AM Alamo, or something like that.
They'll start buying some of our movies locally.
That's right.
Streaming them.
Yeah, they should just go to the streaming platforms. I think AMC kind of does that on their website, and I think that's not a bad way. You've got Disney, and pretty soon you got HBO Max, I guess. So it's already getting. Excuse me. Crowded.
The one time you're not drinking coffee?
I know. I finished up
coffee coma.
I finished up mine before we even went up. So.
Oh, nice.
Dope. I'll never do that again till the next time.
Yeah, you just need an intravenous line going into your vein.
Oh, I know, right? I'm sure there's a vein there somewhere, doctor.
You can probably still taste it even too.
I'd imagine you would be able to. I wonder if people that get IVs, if they're able to. It's been like 20 years since I've had to have an IV in my vein, so I couldn't tell you. But I wonder if there's some residual taste, whether it's an extra watery thing, or or if now they like add sweeteners or something like that, or flavoring, just in case.
Vampire ever got a hold of you?
No, eat Bob. He's all citrusy. That's awesome. It's like, don't eat Frank. He's too much iron. Too much.
Dracula's juiced.
Dracula's juiced. I'm ready to go out on the court. Okay, Dracula, but it's daylight out.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Well, it sounds like we should do some radio shows.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's another thing too, is like a lot of podcasting, and there's a lot of this already being done, but doing, the resurgence of the radio play, of the audio drama, especially now with the, like auditory cues that we may have absorbed from just watching films or whatever. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think now it would be easier to get across that somebody's having like a martial arts fight with the approach to sound effects than maybe it would have been in like the 1950s or something like that. You know what I mean? Just conceptually, it's like we've gone so big with film that in the resurgence of doing radio dramas, I'm listening to one right now called X-Men, the audio drama.
Oh, cool.
And, it's definitely homespun, but it's really good. The people involved have essentially readapted the X-Men universe to fit the medium, and they're going like, they're taking the first few issues and kind of crafting their own narrative through familiar territory, which is really good. Voices, sound effects, good transitions, great music, and those are in essence pretty time consuming to do, but I think now it seems like economically the whole country is going to be suffering, and we could still have mind movies, pumping these ideas into people's heads, and I've done a little bit of it with the skits that I've produced for Superhouse, but the frontier is definitely wide open. And I think some of our projects that we've wanted to produce over the last few years probably could have a nice platform, and
nice.
That's what I think that'd be awesome.
That's cool. Well, Stephen, I think we're about ready to start, winding down.
Cool.
Is there anything else that you wanted to remark on or comment on?
I did have, for those who haven't seen Colfax in 15, I do have the trailer ready to go, and that's on YouTube now, so we can share that around.
Cool.
I'm hoping to. The plan was to release, do the 10th anniversary re-release around October, which is around the time it originally screened at the SIE Film Center back in the day.
Oh yeah,
Thanks,
the C Film Center. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan set up a lot of really great events for us in that project. It was awesome.
It was fun. It was a pleasure working with you. So I agree that people need to see it. I think it's a remarkable film.
I think you're right too. I think I think we're depriving people of at the very least, the homespun drama, the time capsule that it is. East Colfax looks nothing like it did in the film anymore, and so it's a really special movie. I was very glad to be a part of it. I was glad we were able to pull it off, and I just want to add a little bit more music to it, and if I can push that release date up, I will. It just takes a little while to write music, and that's the John Carpenter in me, and
cool.
Also the marriage to my own ideas. Sometimes I can't break away from them. So maybe there'll be YouTube stock music in there, but I'm intending to write at least a few more pieces for it.
Just please do not digitally add Jabba the Hutt back into it.
Yeah, we got some deleted scenes. We're finishing up the CG right now. But anyway, other than that, I'll show the trailer here in a second if that's cool.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Feel free to post it on there, or I can post it, and And yeah, and I'll share this video to the event page too.
Could I screen share it while we're here? Maybe people watching
Oh
could check it
yeah,
out.
yeah. Let's do that. Yeah, if you're able
All
to.
right, let me figure out how I did that. There we go. Screen share. Give me one moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We didn't test this prior to doing this, so here we go. Do you see it okay?
Yeah, I think you probably need to add the audio.
Oops. Nothing?
Little bit. It's very, very quiet.
Oh. Is it working? Not so good on Skype.
Doesn't seem like it. If
Oh,
I had the
okay.
video file, I could bring it up here, and it should work on my end.
Here, let me share you the link then. Other than Colfax coming out, check out Superhouse Podcast on Facebook, Twitter. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher.
Nice.
Anywhere you find podcasts, we're really getting into a groove with it. So we all think they're quite entertaining. So please, if you like podcasts, check us out. Our show is transitioning from being just the Superhouse Podcast to Superhouse Podcast presents Superhero Stuff You Should Know, which will be on the thumbnail. And we figured that's more direct and it's easier to know what we're about, because explaining what a superhouse is not always, the best way to get people locked in. But yeah, other than that, that's what I got.
Cool. Well, yeah, appreciate it, Stefan.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah, most definitely. Go ahead, stay on here while I finish up, and we'll chat a little bit afterwards. But
Cool. Sounds great.
thanks again, Stefan.
Stay metal. Stay healthy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm Dan Crosier, and this is Talking Pallets. Take it easy, everybody.